The Biden administration redefined recession. This guy is speaking facts in this video. It is insane.
The U.S. is in a recession at the moment, but it's not allowed to be called a recession.
Well, the government's trying to not call it a recession, but it's...
Wikipedia article got changed. You see this?
Really?
Oh, dude.
No.
So
They redefined recession?
Yep. So recession used to be 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth.
Right. Not anymore?
Not on Wikipedia. It doesn't matter what you call it, right? You can call it fucking paradise if you want, but it's still shit.
Right.
Like all of the criteria of what's happening
Yes.
indicates a recession.
Yes.
And the reason obviously is that you've got midterms coming up and you need to make sure that is in a recession is not something that can be thrown at the Democrats. That's
Yes, right.
It's
So
a protectionist strategy.
Yes. So no, don't use that word.
Well, it's not. It's not because it's not defined in that way.
Right.
That's not the accepted definition.
Right.
Well,
Like
it was until very, very, very recently.
That's wild. Well, that's gaslighting. That and just that alone, you know, is people would think that it's trivial because they are talking about this economic downturn.
I gotta say something though. Was gaslighting a word before TikTok, dude? Because I swear to God, only place I've heard that shit is from TikTok. Like, there's nowhere else I've seen I'm being gaslit. Like, there's nowhere else I've actually seen that fucking word. Like, I feel like that word was actually created recently. I've never heard gaslight before, like a year ago.
But it's not trivial because we've always used that term recession. And we've always used that term to define whether or not the economic policies that are currently in place and whether or not the management and the government has done a good job of making sure that the economy stays in a good place. They definitely haven't done that. So in order to escape that, that sort of distinction, they're literally changing the definition, which is terrible. And it should be pushed back against in a big way. It should be something that people get angry about. Like, hey, you're fucking with definitions in order to pretend that you're doing a good job.
Well, the reason that you attach a sequence of letters to something, right, is to represent what that thing is. You don't change reality by changing what those words actually mean.
Right.
But if you can't control the economy, you might as well just control the language and hope for the best.
God. Yo, did you hear that? God. Let's actually run that back so you guys can hear that shit again.
You attach a sequence of letters to something, right, is to represent what that thing is. You don't change reality by changing what those words actually mean.
Right.
But if you can't control the economy, you might as well just control the language and hope for the best.
God. Chat, because think about it. The language is also like what we talk about, what we care about, what we're spending our time doing. They're just trying to distract us. That's all they're trying to do. They're trying to distract us from the shit that actually means real stuff. So it makes sense why that's going on, but he's about to talk about thought leaders, and this is about to be crazy.
Hope for the best.
God. What a bunch of weasels.
Dude, it's wild. But again, this is I think because everybody's opinions and their words now are what everyone's judged on, not their deeds, right? We used to be judged on our deeds because they were the things that were the most obvious. But now, because social media is one of the primary forms of communication, people are judged on their opinions and their words far more. And what that means is that your opinion is actually, and the language specifically that you use, it's way more important than actually what's happening in the world. And if that's the case, what it means is that language should be the focus. Why wouldn't I lexically try and do some Brazilian jiu-jitsu to fuck around with this? A little bit of semantic fuckery. Why not? Well, because that's going to actually change the thing that most people are taking notice of. And also, there's a concept called two-step flow theory. And what it says is that there are precious few original thinkers in the world. And because most people feel like they have to have an opinion on everything, because that's the world that we live in at the moment, but very few people can be bothered to do original thought and do the research, people just take on the opinion of whoever their favorite thought leader is. So you could basically argue that the culture war is largely 2 armies of NPCs being ventriloquized by a handful of actual thinkers above them.
That's a great way to look at it. And that is kind of what's going on with a great majority of people, or a large number of people. I don't know if it's a majority, but it's enough to make noise. It's enough to show you that there's a real...
Nah, chat. Like, subconsciously or consciously, you're putting that stuff in your brain and you're kind of just acting as a new person. So when I say who you watch is who you become, this is exactly what I mean. Because you're watching somebody, and like Josh said, like, he never said bro before he came in here. He never said a lot of this stuff. Whatever he said like the two-step theory or something. Whatever that is, I'm about to research that shit because I'm trying to be an original thinker, chat. I'm not trying to like think for the mass majority and just kind of fit in with society. Like if I'm being honest, like nah. Nowadays you have to make that decision consciously. Do I want to be an original thinker? Do I not want to be an original thinker? I'm not sure, but
problem with ideologies and with tribalism, because that's what people gravitate towards. They gravitate towards a group of people that they feel like they can fit into, and then they can adopt those patterns of thinking and those thoughts. And instead of coming up with their own opinions, they form this sort of conglomeration of other people's opinions, and then they fiercely defend them.
the level of like clarity that they just spoke on like is like I honestly don't even want to say anything because I'm not at that level of clarity, and I kind of just like want to just let y'all sit with that because whatever just happened was crazy. Whatever y'all just watched right there, that last like minute and a half can probably change the way that you think about everything, and the way that you think is the way that you're gonna act. And I'm not trying to act like a idiot, so we'll I'll let y'all sit with that one. Nah, Ruben, that's facts. I feel like honestly like the majority of like the reason like why I kind of enjoy talking about stuff like that, like the way that like the mass majority of people think, is kind of just so I can notice that, because I feel like the first step in changing something, you have to acknowledge what is actually going down. You know, like you have to acknowledge what is happening in your brain, and is it something that like is good? Because, for example, I grew up watching YouTube. I grew up watching like gamers. I grew up watching a whole bunch of stuff, right? And yeah, it shaped who I was as a person, obviously, because it's like, yo, like you watch Nate Shaw and Scumpy and Optic and shit like that, and then obviously you're gonna want to go play Call of Duty. So a part of me is feeling like, damn, like, is this content creation shit like even not even the content creation shit, chat, because I still love doing it. Like, don't get me wrong when I say this, but like, is it actually my goal deep down? Like, from original thought, is that my goal? Or is it like me just trying to be like somebody who I watched because I watched them and they live a good life, and like I'm like, damn, all right, let's just do that.